Hello everyone, Derek Diablo here. Diablo TV, like and subscribe, do the things you're supposed to do. And as I'm approaching 2 million views on this channel, it's time to start breaking down more of the behind the scenes of the shoot, out of character mechanisms that have brought you here and keep you here and keep you coming back. And what you're looking at, whether you know it or not, most people haven't worked it. Some people have worked it out. Talking about the DWU, Diablo's Wrestling Universe. Wrestling Universe, Wrestling Promotion, comic book universe. It's a universe with characters, an overarching storyline, story arcs, different conflicts, ongoing conflicts. Wrestling, professional wrestling. It's what I grew up with. First thing I was ever into as a child was, well, first thing was the music, the hippie music that my parents had me listen, that they listened to, which became my music until I found my own music, but I still listened to all that. So let's say first and foremost, I was in the psychedelic culture and the psychedelic music and the psychedelic rock. And I couldn't read yet, as a baby and 1 year old, 2 years old. So music is the first. Then comes monsters. Monsters I was into. First thing I can remember being into. First book fair in first grade, let's say, and monsters. But then the first magazine, when I started being old enough that I could, go with my parents and buy magazines and stuff like that, and they buy magazine. Nowadays people don't buy magazines so much anymore. But first magazines I bought when I had the choice out of all the magazines out there, wrestling. I already had comic books. So you must be going back to about 4 years old, maybe 1978, something like that, 1979. Pro wrestling, sure, Mad Magazine, Cracked Magazine, that kind of thing, but the pro wrestling magazines, because I was into monsters already. You had the Pro Wrestling Illustrated and so forth, the Bill Apter, which has been discussed at length these days for those who are into pro wrestling. And, I'd see the magazines, and looking back at it, I see that it was similar to Monsters. Because, there would be pictures of Dusty Rhodes. I remember in Abdullah the Butcher and stuff like that. Pencil in his head and fork in his head and blood. And there's always pictures of people with blood on their faces and Bruce R. Brody, this sort of thing. And then, they were black and white, the magazines, when I was a kid. So then black and white, and then the blood and the black and white and the grimacing and so forth. So, psychoanalyzing myself, one of my favorite pastimes. So, psychoanalyzing myself, I could see that, it's the same as horror movie. It's the same as horror. Because black and white, the original books, first book I had was Dracula in first grade. And the next book fair, about all the monster book, had Hammer films, British Hammer films and stuff like that. And, it has blood and it's black and white. And that has a certain look. So the wrestling was the same. The wrestling magazine had that same sort of feel. And then my grandfather, Will Frank, rest in peace, he was into it. He was into pro wrestling. And then there was wrestling, NWA wrestling, Florida Championship Wrestling from Florida was in the Miami Beach Convention Center. I want to say it was every Saturday. Now, in those days, and that kind of wrestling, it's a bit more like ECW. You don't bring kids. I wasn't ever allowed to go. So that might be a little different from people who grew up more with the WWF, WWE, and make it into a family thing where little kids can come. Sound familiar? Football, soccer, same thing. It used to be a male thing, male aggression. And, maybe you'd bring your kid if he was old enough. But, as a 4, 5, 6-year-old kid, I wasn't allowed to go with that. So, Florida Championship Wrestling from Florida. We'd all sit and watch my grandfather pull up the pillow and we'd watch, and then my uncle, we'd watch the pro wrestling. Be a Saturday or Sunday would come on, and he would, we'd all sitting there and watching. You're talking about me, my oldest memories go back to probably 2 or 3 years old and stuff like that. And so going back to that, I remember watching it and looking at it, and my grandfather would laugh so much, he'd be laughing the whole time. Laughing hard, and he'd be right pressed up against the TV, and my uncle would be in there into it, and then I'd be in there, and me and he'd be my uncle, he'd be doing moves on me and stuff, and that would lead to us going in the room afterwards, my uncle, and he would do all the wrestling moves on me and hurt me, but it was fun. And in turn, I passed that on to my little brother, all the kids in the neighborhood. Whenever I had an opportunity, I'd be doing wrestling moves to try to hurt all the other children. So wrestling is formative in my psyche, my psychology, and I'd argue, especially once I became a pro wrestler under the tutelage of Rusty Brooks, rest in peace. And then that's really before a lot of the business was completely exposed. But once I learned the wrestling psychology, this is what people don't know about wrestling psychology. If you don't understand it, people are like, oh, pro wrestling, that stuff's phony. All right, well, so is a movie. Right? So is a fiction book. But people say, oh, that's phony, They don't look at it that way, because with pro wrestling, there's this element of you're conning the audience. They're marks. It's a work. You're working the audience. It's carnival stuff, carnival tricks. So that involves psychology. And you can use it anywhere in life. I use it. I can't help but use it. I was raised around it, and to the point where I got involved in it and understood it. And I was taught pro wrestling booking very specifically by Rusty Brooks. And a lot of times that I passed by his house when nobody else was around in the daytime, because my step-grandparents live in the same neighborhood. So I passed by there, and even after I wasn't training with him and working with him anymore, we talk. And about the booking, I wanted to learn and become a booker, and I was already booking my own matches right away, and Opelika High Liga flea market and so forth. And in pro wrestling, you're supposed to be a babyface first, because the heels lead the match. The heel leads the babyface. So babyface is good guys, heels is bad guys. That's the original pro wrestling psychology. But then later on, with Stone Cold, the Attitude Era, then you have the anti-hero character, which they brought out. And then you got a lot of people nowadays who are not clear baby faces or heels, and arguably it messes up the whole show. And then they'll say the toothpaste, you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. In other words, once you expose the business to the public, then you can't unexpose it. But stay tuned for that. But back to all of you and me and what we're doing here. This channel, Diablo TV, was started based on our first Millwall versus Miami, who's the hardest video, that went viral, and then I made the channel based on that. And once I created a viral video, I wanted to take it down. It was a Facebook video to capitalize on it, but that obviously it got out there, but it blew me up, and I became somewhat of a household name in places because lads, football hooligans, watch my videos and have watched them, and then their kids, and then they're preserving this football casuals culture. Their kids are wearing the clothes, and I'm somebody talking about it, and I've increased attention to it and created a bit of a renaissance, whether anybody's going to give me credit or not, because 2018, everybody said, oh, that stuff's long over with and everything like that. Would casuals culture and the clobber, like carrying the names on the firms, would it be where it's at right now in UK without my contributions? I'll leave that for you to decide, but clearly not. It's had some impact. I walk around in UK, whether it's in England or West, South Wales, little kids come up to me. Everybody comes up, and when I see kids, sometime I was in Caerphilly walking around at nighttime, walking down the street, and I was lost, and I needed to figure out where I was going. I didn't have Wi-Fi, let's say, and I see a group of kids. Man, they were about 12 years old, 11 years old, 10 years old, like kids. They're all decked out. Aqua Scudum, Scar, Stone Island, CP Company, a little group of, I don't normally walk up to a bunch of, 12-year-old kids, but, if I'm in the music or the martial arts or some environment, it's appropriate. But anyway, I walk up, and as I started walking up, I was trying to figure out where I was going. I was lost. And I'm walking up, there's a group of them, little 10, 11, 12-year-old, 14-year-old kids, little kids hanging out. And as I was walking up, they're pointing at me. And I'm walking up to ask them directions. Also, I'm tripping out that they're wearing this, that they're decked out in clobber. They're little casuals. As I walk up, and this isn't a small town, the Valley of Caerphilly, it's not a major city. And then I walk up on him, and I look at him first, because, normal grown man walk up on kids. I says, and they're all pointing at me. It's him, it's him. I was like, all right, boys, you know who I am? Yeah, Del Boy. I said, listen. I says, I'm lost. I says, which way is where I'm going? And they go, oh, it's there, Del Boy. And then I said, all right. I said, you all look all casuals, huh? Like, yes, Del. All right, CCFC, yeah, yes. Bluebirds, yeah, Soul Crew. So, and they're all saying Soul Crew. And I was like, listen, thanks for the information. Nice to see you guys. Nice to meet you. But tell your parents you met me. And tell them I said hello. But I'll see. Maybe sometime if I meet you with your parents, we can talk on it. Not appropriate from. I didn't go into detail. I just said, tell your parents you met me. I didn't sit there and hang out with them. But it was interesting. So then, with kids, 10-year-old, 11-year-old, 12-year-old kids in UK be interested in this culture, casuals culture that their parents are into, that their parents wear the clothes and glorify and tell these old stories without me coming around and doing what I've done and naming the firms and wearing the clobber and making these comedy type of videos and being outlandish and viral videos and keeping myself in the news around the UK. And would it all be where it is right now? That's a matter of opinion. That being said, it's not just talking about the old hooligan days in the 80s, 90s, 70s, 80s, 90s. Not just about talking about the clobber. There's loads of that. And the market became oversaturated in football hooliganism in the UK. And everybody's writing books. People that didn't deserve to write books. And then to the point where they may start going comedy movies. So many movies, documentaries, and people trying to cash in on the casuals culture and the hooliganism. People that are long since retired, writing books, going on podcasts, going on being involved in documentaries. So they kind of milked it for all they could, right? And it's a thing of the past. It was at least back then. And then it comes to the point where then you get like the Hooligan Factory, which is a comedy movie taking the piss, making fun of football hooliganism. And then you got the spoofs of the Real Football Factories episodes, making fun of these guys. So at that point, 2018, when I made the first video, people said that stuff's long over with, and maybe culturally, it was dying a slow death. Let's say, I arguably it would always make a resurgence with or without me, but nobody, we won't know, because here we are. With that being said, what makes me so different and what makes everything I've done so different, and people still trying to work it out, but it all amounts to professional wrestling. People say, does he even follow football? Do I even watch soccer? Well, I go to matches. I'll make a video eventually. How many miles I got logged traveling to matches? Far more than, except some of the most diehard UK football fans. Because you got to figure, the entire England fits inside of Florida, my state. I've gone to UK, to LA, to Philly, and even going from where I lived as a kid in Pembroke Pines to the Fort Lauderdale Stadium. That's, you compare that in England. Some people never left their own areas in England that I've met, so forth. So I definitely go to matches. I definitely am definitely involved in the culture, the clothes, and all this stuff. Now, as far as the game that's taking place out there, the ball game is taking place. But just like with hardcore and punk, and then these extreme forms of music, the show is in the pit. The show's taking place on terraces, in the stands. So, but it's up to me to enjoy it. It's a commercial product. Some people say, oh, he doesn't follow football. That's like saying young girl who's into rave music and goes to all the raves and has a great time dancing and doing whatever they do. I say, oh, well, you went to this rave, what DJs did you watch? And I don't know. I saw this when I saw that. Oh, well, did you watch him? Do you know that he's this? Do you know that this DJ is playing this kind of music and it's at this tempo? And before he played this music, he was on this label, and like how people do with the players in the sport. Young girl goes to raves. She likes to go there, have a good time. She likes the music. She likes the atmosphere. She likes meeting the people involved. And you say, oh, you're not a real raver. You don't really follow rave music. Well, that's what, again, it's in the eye of the beholder. And then the first promo that brought us here to this dance 5 years ago, 2018. Miami versus Millwall, who's the hardest? That came about because of the Weasel, the fantastic Steve Dolan, the false flagger. Now he goes around saying like, oh, I never said that I was the leader of Millwall. That's a lie. Because when I first got on the internet to represent Miami Casuals before that Miami versus Millwall video. You know, his profile picture, as anybody knows who goes back that far, you know, everybody. Bear with me. Sorry about that. So, as anybody knows that knows this chap, on his profile, he had multiple profiles, but on his main profile, it had him. And there's a picture of him like with a skull mask. Obviously, you'd see it's him. So they had the skull mask. Where it was from a book from Bulgaria, I believe. And they have a quote of him, and he had it on his Facebook. And it's like, you know, it's called Millwall Steve Dolan. And it's talking about like, you know, in Millwall, any other supporters come from any other club, you know, we attack them. Blah blah blah. He was saying stuff like that in his skull mask. He's definitely representing that he's top boy of Millwall. So then I was getting threatened by him or challenged to a fight. I put two and two together. I saw the other profile was him, but you know, then challenging us to a fight against Millwall, Miami Casuals versus Millwall, right? That he's gonna come to America and where we're gonna meet and all this kind of thing. But then he hit me with the other profile, and I see all this stuff, and you all right, Del? Yeah, you know, because people had already been calling me Del Boy by that time, and I said, oh, okay, here's the leader of Millwall, top boy. I said, you all right? Yeah. I said, listen, man. I said, you know, I have a concept. I said, now that we're talking, I said, you seem like a, you know, nice guy. I says, listen, you know, I'm writing all this out. I'm like, I don't know how much you know about professional wrestling. I'm like, but here's my vision. Because I already knew about the force fighting, and I'm not trying to ever bring it back to UK hooliganism in the 80s and 90s. And that's not going to happen, and I don't believe in endangering innocent people and stuff. The forest fighting, the European model, Eastern European model, that's where it's at. And making that into a professional sport. They've already had team fighting championships. That was 5-on-5, and those are using hooligan firms. So what I'm talking about is not any big stretch of the imagination. I just need the backing. Or, from this in time, I'll do it on my own. I'm not going to ask for an investor and owe money on something like that. I don't believe in that. I'm anti-capitalist in that way. I don't believe in credit cards and loans and all that sort of thing. I'll just save up the money and get it myself. I need a ring, championship belts. I tried to do it already with a Boneface, me versus Boneface. It would have been a shoot match, which means it would be legit. The match would be legit, but a shoot match is still pro wrestling. I'll get into that. But going back to the Steve Dolan and the original Miami versus Millwall video, I told him, I said, listen, here's what I want to do. Professional. I've been talking about it online. I want to make a 10-on-10 professional hooligan fight. You know, create a new sport. You know, people had already been saying, oh, this guy could be the new Dana White of a new sport. So then I'm going on further with the guy, and and I said, listen, here's what I want you to do. I says, I want you to go on, and he's still talking to me as Millwall, right? He hadn't got exposed yet for making, when he said he's going to come to America and glass me, that glass attack video. You know, imagine that was part of it. There's more to that one. I haven't revealed that yet. That was meant to be a sketch where he attacks me with a glass, and I'm dancing in front of girls, and he attacks me. There he is. I wrote a whole sketch out for him to do with me, that he is going to glass me and leave me on the ground and then bloody and Millwall, blah, 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 blah. So that's where he got the idea for that glass attack promo on me, right? So I continued saying, listen, here's what you do. Because he was in agreement. Oh, yeah. About the 10-on-10 fight. I said, here's what you do, brother. I says, go in front of your Millwall pub. This is obviously 2018, before the pandemic, before masking up, right? So I say, go in front of your Millwall pub. 10 lads. They're masked up, ballets, scarves over the face, CP company, goggle jackets. You know the score. And I says, and you get in front, and you start calling out Miami, ba 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 ba, 10 on 10, professional hooligan fight. We're gonna come to Miami, and we want you, ba 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 ba. It's still the same concept. Because and then going a little further, Brentford and Millwall responded in the sense that they did a 10 on 10 fight. And people might criticize it, but so what? Those lads still had the bottle to go out there and do it, and the older lads that were involved, and refereeing, so to speak. So to all of you lads that was involved in that Millwall versus Brentford 10 on 10, cheers to you, respect to you. I'm not going to criticize the actual fight. You guys got together and did it. And that was in response to what I was saying, had been stirring up. Unfortunately, I didn't tell them to do that. I didn't have anything to do with orchestrating it. And at the time, I wouldn't have thought that would have been a crime. A bunch of dudes getting together and having a fight for fun. But they ended up getting stitched up. So, any sort of football-related guys getting together and doing something like that, at least the way they did it, is going to be seen as gang activity and football violence related. And whether that's fair or not, that's another matter. But in America, that's not a crime. And elsewhere, that's not a crime, because the football violence, the hooliganism is not the same thing here as it is in UK and Europe. So with that being said, I came up with this whole proposal to Steve Dolan, and he was negotiating on behalf of Millwall. He was a top Millwall, the top lad, top boy in Millwall. That's what we all thought on the internet. That's how he's coming at me. But even he's in Scotland, not even from there. But now he plays it off. I don't blame him. He's got his own career, his own social media personality, his own website and everything like that. So, in response, he says, "Oh yeah, Del, that's good, but my guys won't understand it. They don't watch wrestling, so you do it first." Voila. That's how this was. He was winding me up. And other people say, "Oh man, you're giving him too much credit. You don't got to go around saying that. It's like he made it up." Well, you don't make me up. You didn't make up all these other videos. We were in negotiation. I thought, and I was operating in good faith, that we're negotiating a 10 on 10 hooligan fight, professional, for money, and those guys are going to come over here and we'll do a fight. But afterwards, we're all going to hang out and have a good time and do our thing and get in a session in Miami and all that kind of stuff. That was the idea. But he had no jurisdiction he's not Millwall. He's operating in bad faith. So if people regard him as a real hooligan, or people think he's a good guy or something like that, well, I'll leave that for you to decide. But he was perpetrating anything that I'm saying I'm involved in one way or another. You know what I mean? But so then I'd done the first video, boom, and it was a Facebook video meant for his channel, and meant for the other groups I was in, the hooligan groups on Facebook. But as everybody knows, wow, it went viral fast, and it rocked the whole hooligan community in the sense that every firm and every hooligan saw it. Plus it spread out to the bigger general public, and hooliganism, regular people in England, because I got an article in The Sun, Daily Star, then the Vice Written, and it kept snowballing. So then it was getting to people outside of the hooligan culture, outside the football scene. People talking about hooligans. That stuff's long gone. They didn't realize that it had went underground and in lower leagues, and there were still lads keeping together, and the casual style, football casual scene, the clobber. Everybody in UK doesn't know what that means. You have to be involved in it. I go around. Everybody knows what hooligans are in UK. People walk around. A lot of people know who I am, right? Other people, what? Who's he? Oh, he's that hooligan. They just call me that hooligan. He's that American. He's that football hooligan. And that's funny in the sense that what have I done in the actual football violence to warrant that title? But the other side's not all violence. It's a culture. It's a fashion. It's a banter. It's expressions. There's it's a shared culture. There's films. There's music that goes with it. There's not one specific genre. It's many genres. And I intend to craft the football lad music, the football casuals music, into more of a cohesive genre. It just must be understood. Hence why I'm bringing out some of these other genres, show how they overlap and how they evolve. Like you say, skinhead music. Skinhead music isn't one genre. It's skinhead reggae, soul, two-tone, ska, punk, oi, street punk, hardcore, It goes into metal, black metal, even death metal, skinhead hip hop. So skinhead music is a genre, but it hasn't been defined as such yet. In the same way that the football casuals music there's football casuals mix. You can look on YouTube. You put football casuals song music, and you'll see plenty of mixes. And they'll give you, it just hasn't been spoken about enough to enter into the public's consciousness as a defined genre. Moving on. So the entire channel and the first Millwall video is pro wrestling. It's based on pro wrestling and a new form of pro wrestling, a shoot organization. A work means fake or not on the level, and a shoot means for real. So it's a shoot match in a professional wrestling promotion, basically. That was the proposal. I done the promo. It blew up. Then that, by the time I came back from the gym, I went for a couple hours to the gym, and it's already 5,000 hits. I'm like, what? I didn't believe it. What? I'm refreshing, and 500 more. Every time I refresh, like about another 500, 300. The next thing is 7,000 in a few hours. And I realized I had made a viral video, and it was taken off, and snowballed, let's say the video itself, and got media attention. I tried to take it down, but it was already out there. Then I was saying, okay, well, if I'd done it once, I could do it again. And if I can't do it with one video, death by 1,000 cuts. And if I can make lightning strike once, I can make it strike again. So then, all the stuff that was in my head, and I was getting attacked online, threatened, too many, hundreds of negative comments, and I'm like, whoa, I'm up all night and psychedelically enhanced often. As they say, hey, my mate Ryan, aka Chippo Ryan Taylor from Plymouth, Stonehouse Boys, right? Yeah, when he met me when I was living in Plymouth, he didn't really know. He knew I was. We're hanging out. He's seen what I do all night. And, oh, Del, come down. I'm up in the room at the party house. Man, Big Nate, cheers. Hey, Del, come down. To talk with Ryan. What are you up there doing? Oh, yeah, sitting there burning people up all night. And they're winding people up. So the Steve Dolan is a wind-up merchant. And he said as much because we had a friend. Whatever he says in another video, we've talked friendly behind the scenes, right? He has to maintain his character and talk bad about me, or whatever. But he told me I love winding cunts up. That's what he. So both of us are wind-up merchants, but obviously we love the culture and we're involved in the culture. So then, it all begins with pro wrestling. Then, when you talk about Florida, championship wrestling from Florida, and I begin to close. Eddie Graham, rest in peace, the late Eddie Graham, who taught Dusty Rhodes booking, who taught Rusty Brooks booking. Therefore, I'm a disciple in that same school. He said, make it real. Make the wrestling real. We'll go into the Eddie Graham and the Florida championship wrestling from Florida. So, make it real. In other words, it's not supposed to be, you're going into this fake thing, and okay, there's a good guy and there's a bad guy. Nah, you need to go further in your real life and the storylines. And pro wrestling can get very real, deadly, dangerous, the sport itself, the lifestyle. So many wrestlers die young, and now I guess they try to sanitize it, but you're talking about a deadly pastime, in many ways. So make it real. Hooliganism is real. Football hooliganism is real. Football casuals culture is real. Football, soccer is real. But then the professional wrestling psychology is where you take that reality and weave it and get people emotionally involved. You cause a reaction. Whether you're a heel or a babyface, you have to cause a reaction. The fans don't know who you are, or they know who you are, and you come out, blah, 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 blah. They announce who you are from where you're from. And if you're a babyface, nobody makes any noise. Or if you're a heel, nobody makes any noise, well, then you suck. You're no good. Now, you go out there and you're a babyface, everybody, ah! You go out there and you're a heel, either way, the reaction. And in the old days, you're designed, and me and Rusty Brooks, God bless his soul, you know, we had a lot of issues. I wasn't a good student in that sense. And I was growing up in the, you know, I was in wrestling school in the ECW and the Attitude Era and the WCW with Eric Bischoff. And, you know, then he's like, man, Derek, he's like, these people are killing the wrestling business. He's like, just because they do it on TV doesn't make it right. I'm like, eh. Like, I was a referee before I was a, you know, that's what happens when you're training, you do other jobs. So my first match, 1998, I'm a referee. And Rusty tells me, you know, we're there at the match and the audience is out there. And he's telling me, he's like, and he knows my mentality and he's always had a hard time with me. Poor guy, you know. He says, Derek, he says, the referee is a straight character. He says, don't go out there clowning around. I says, okay. And I said that meaning it. But then I get out there and all the kids are, ooh, all the kids, you suck. And the kids are suck it to me. I took it for a minute. I'm in the ring, you know. I'm walking around, people, the kids are all booing and stuff. And then I looked at one kid, and I gave it to him. You suck. And then all the audience, the kids started popping. You know, people started thinking it's funny, huh? And then I started doing stuff to the audience. I started jeering at the audience, doing basic stuff because they're booing me. And it's like with the hooligan stuff, you know. I just came out saying I was a Miami Casual initially on these boards. Saying Miami Casuals, you know, we're going to have a football club coming. I did this before the football club started to attract attention to my team. And also to express the football casual scene and get it going in America. So I only came out talking about fashion, being that I saw that casuals came from skinheads, and I'm a skinhead, and I'm evolving from the extremist left-wing skinhead, putting the politics behind me and the extremism behind me, and moving into this other scene that has a lot of things I'm interested in for a long time, and then it came to hooligans coming against me. I was like, oh, okay. So now you want to talk shit and threaten me. Okay, now hooligans into Miami firm. Now what's up? I'll fight all of you one-on-one, bah, 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 bah. So it's coming with that when you start talking shit about me. So it's the same thing with the kids in the audience. You know, the kids and teenagers. This is ECW Stone Cold era. And I guess, and I'm out there, and back, you know, this is a local wrestling match. There's no TV monitor. You know, Rusty's watching. It's a high school gymnasium. He's watching for this. And then my cousin Bull, who I was in wrestling school with, who we'd be tag team, but as the Latin Express, but we'd also wrestle each other. As you saw, I put a clip of some of the stuff with me and him. Show people I could jump off the top ropes. I could do all that stuff. But it's really dangerous, pro wrestling. So I did some matches, but for the amount, you know, $50 to break your neck. And I'm crazy. I like to do crazy stuff and aggressive stuff. So I did some matches, but I have a different vision for pro wrestling. We're here. It's this. So I preserve my body in that sense. A lot of people, I'm about to be 50. You know, a lot of people by this point in pro wrestling, you know, their body's messed up. I'm ready to go, Jack. I can go out there right now. I'll put a high quality match on right now. You stick me in WWE or AEW, you know, they have to give me a title push. Otherwise, I'm not interested. But I'll go out there right now and do a match. It'll be my style, it'll be shoot style, but I know how to sell, I know how to work, I know how it goes, right? I know the score. So I'm more than just smartened up. I trained. So back to Diablo's wrestling universe. The question becomes, are you a character? You sitting there watching this. Are you a character in my wrestling universe? Well, the answer is, if you only watch the videos and you don't comment, then you're like somebody who goes to WWE or AEW or UFC, another pro wrestling promotion, a shoot promotion, Dragon Gate, wherever you go. That's a sporting event, be it some kind of combat sport or professional wrestling. And you don't hold up a sign, and you don't ever make any comments, then you're a fan, but you're not part of the universe. You're observing it. Now you go to a pro wrestling show and you either wear a gimmick or you have a sign. And now people can see you can see yourself when you watch, like right here. Now you make a comment below. And the comment is like holding up a sign. Okay, you put yourself in it. As the camera pans, you see the person's sign. Sometimes there's really good signs. and people get known for a sign, or people, and then people might wear gimmicks. So then that's the people who comment. The comments below, even if you, oh, I hate that guy, he's an idiot, he's a sausage, he's a muppet, he's a sissy, or whatever you want to say about me. Like you say about the wrestlers, about Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkov and all these guys, Jim Cornette. Whatever you want to say, and whatever but you're still here. And you still went to the match. You suck! And you got a sign. So now you're known somehow. Now you could look back at the video and say, oh, look. You show your friends, look, there I am. You go back to that episode of that wrestling particular promotion. Then you say, oh, look, you can see me. I went to the match. Look, there's me. You show all your friends. Bah, bah, bah. And if the wrestler then looks at you and tears up your sign, or bah, 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 or gets with you on the sign, that's like me responding to your comment. Yeah, so now you're involved. And then there's commenters in these videos of mine going back now years. Haters, also ones that are fans, and you know, a lot of are going to be in between. If you keep watching the videos and you're commenting. So everybody who's made a comment is involved in that respect, that you're a fan that has become noticed either by the camera or by the wrestlers themselves. Could lead to becoming involved in the promotion and getting a job in the promotion. See where this is going. And then obviously anybody that's been named, anybody that's appeared one way or another in this wrestling universe is part of it. Maybe it's a one-off. Maybe the guy just came and did one match. Maybe they're a recurring character. Maybe they're a top character, a top heel, top babyface. Top babyfaces are the people I talk about with respect, and the legendary hooligans and so forth, and the people that I give respect to, that I'm going to be giving respect to now in this pro wrestling series. My favorite pro wrestlers, favorite pro wrestling promotions, favorite tag teams, favorite managers. It's all coming. But understand that if it's just pro wrestling, then everybody knows, oh, that stuff's fake. But people didn't understand what I'm doing as being pro wrestling. But that's what it is. But like Eddie Graham said, make it real. So every hooligan who's been named, every hooligan firm who's been named, every other character, from the Boneface to the imposter Tommy Robinson, Stephen Yaxley, to the real Tommy Robinson, to the Sean McGovern, to the Cardiff Baby Huey, A.K. Colin Mice, to the Kester One, to the Dean Cooper, to the Steve Dolan, to the Cass Pennant. All these people are the people I'm concerned with, that I talk about. And they're all involved in the pro wrestling universe. You know, I've tried to make a Kickstarter for me and Boneface. I need like 30 grand, that's all. I'm not going to go borrow it from the bank. I don't believe in it. I don't got credit either. I don't believe in investing, you know, that kind of way, and then you don't know if it's going to work or not, right? So, do this channel and other stuff I do, I'm going to save up the money. Don't matter how long it takes. Save up the money, get myself a ring. I tried to do the Kickstarter. There wasn't enough interest with me and Boneface, and then people didn't want. They felt like it was giving him too much of a platform, and that it's not, you know, and that it's crossing a line into promoting their stuff too much. So my Kickstarter failed, but the idea is the same. I need a ring. I need championship belts. I need an interview area. So all I need is what you saw in Championship Wrestling from Florida, or Georgia Championship Wrestling, Memphis, a studio show. And that, during the pandemic, every pro wrestling organization went into this. You know, because that's Southern wrestling. It goes into a deeper story, but the New York and the Madison Square Garden and the WWE, WWF, and WWF, Vince McMahon Sr., in Madison Square Garden. You know, so they got a big sporting event, like a boxing event. So the mic working and the vignettes and this other side stuff, you're not going to be able to do all that. Everybody can't see it that well. However, you look at old NWA wrestling, to me the best. And the Championship Wrestling from Florida and stuff, the studio shows, television as they call it. We'd go such and stuff for television. And, you know, it's got 50 people, 100 people, if that, in the audience. It's in a television studio next to other television studios. The ring is here, interview area is here. And that's where the Southern wrestling and the other little fights that, you know, other fights that happen. The famous Memphis fight in the concession stand, and You know, Ric Flair coming out with the Rock and Roll Express and Ricky Morton. I got this training bra. They said give you teeny boppers, and you know, that kind of stuff right there, that drama, which is what it's all about. It's why professional wrestling is more popular than Olympic wrestling. It's about the psychology, telling a story, good versus evil. In modern times, good and evil is not so clear cut. Anti-heroes. So it reflects life, but it's escapism. But then you use stuff from real life. Soviet Union, that's the villains. Looks like now, Russia's the villains. And the media, demonizing the villains of Russia. It's Russophobia to me, which is connected to anti-Semitism. But either way, it's escapism, but it's based on reality. And it's this P.T. Barnum sitting back, playing with everybody's heads, and playing with everybody's emotions. And the wrestling psychology is supreme. Supreme above your mind. Unless you know it and you studied it. So, in conclusion, stay tuned. We've only yet begun. But I've named a lot of firms. Won't mean I won't name more. I've named a lot of top boys. Then I've started my programs with 3 guys. Steve Dolan, Boneface, and Imposter Tommy Robinson, Stephen Yaxley. So that's my lane, let's see. Fighting, going against these far right guys. Even if I'm not involved in politics anymore, but the pro wrestling, you use the politics as characters. But for all of you out there, all of you lads, football hooligans, casuals, top boys, and on that one, I'd like to say big respect to Mark Chester, Jasper, Stoke, Naughty 40. He mentored me in some ways. I'm not saying he's proud of what he's done with me or he's proud of me, but he gave me inspiration and insight at a time when I was performing a lot of this. So I'd like to give him a special respect right now, and he made a video for me on the channel. It's got a lot of views, and top guy that Mark Chester by all accounts. So imagine that Mark Chester, Jasper, being there in the commentator's booth, and he could be like the Tony Schiavone of this thing, Cass Pennant. I've laid it out before when I talked about the hooligan boxing. Hooligan boxing is a pro wrestling promotion, but imagine what we could do. So, in conclusion, stay tuned. Thank you for your support. And if you comment, or if you've been featured, if I've discussed you, then it feels good to have you involved with me in this thing. And there's more to come. And there's money and fame, fortune, fun, brotherhood, showmanship for all involved. Stay tuned. I'm going to do some pro wrestling videos in the comments below. If you're with me, if you like me or don't like me. If you know about pro wrestling and you have favorite characters, somebody you think I should cover, I'm going to name my own favorites. And this goes back to me when I was born, 2, 3, 4, 5 years old. It's been with me my whole life. Now as I'm approaching 50 years old, and this channel has given me an opportunity to kind of document a lot of stuff I've been involved with and stuff I have in mind. But this has been the first half of my life, God willing, 50 years and then 50 to 100. And I've been interpreting and internalizing, but now it's time for me to really lay it all out. And kids love pro wrestling, and people everywhere love pro wrestling. And you may have depression, you may not be happy with your life, with your family, and watching pro wrestling can excite you, and you can live for it. And I had a full life, let's say, but I still took so much from the pro wrestling, and I want to give back, and my unique interpretation of it. It's an art form. And then what I do with my videos, people don't get it. They just look at it. If you just take it at face value, like you take a Soviet Union, Nikita Koloff, Nikolai Volkov, Iron Sheik, America. If you take it at value, who is this guy? This guy from here, go back to Iran. Bah, 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 bah. That's like somebody looking at my videos and taking them at face value. Let's say my hooligan promos. But to me, it's performance art, and it's improv comedy. You know, like some people are seeing these videos now. I can keep going on, and I will go on, but I'm not gonna. I don't want to make it 2-hour videos. But this one lays the foundation for what's to follow, and also gives a recap of everything that's happened up to this point. So this is like a special, let's say. And yes, it's improv comedy. Professional wrestling was improv. The booker gave you the finish, how the match is going to end, how long it's going to be, any special angles or referee interference or blah, 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 manager interference. But you'd go out there and you didn't choreograph anything. You go out there and you work it out on the spot and you call moves. And the other guy doesn't have to follow it. One move counters the next. So professional wrestling is meant to be improv. So it's a form of performance art. It's a violent form of art. Just like the musics I'm into are violent. Music forms, genres I'm into, violent forms, but they're art forms. Whether it's RAC, black metal, death metal, some of the other ones I get into, it's art. And that's what this is meant to be. It's meant to be entertainment. And then it crosses over to, when I start doing my own podcast, this is giving a lot of the background material, and I'm getting to practice kind of, and experiment with my audience and talk kind of out of character, let's say, behind the scenes style, shoot style. But make no mistake, this is drama. And it's a high form of art, performance art, improv comedy. People asking me now, wow, man, you were talking for an hour. Are you using notes? No, I don't have any notes. I'm not looking at any notes. It's all right here. Don't need any notes. Diablo's Wrestling Universe. Thank you for being involved. In the comments below, give me your 2 cents.